Kia ora, councillors. Welcome to the inaugural meeting for this triennium of council. And we'll just start with a karakia. If you can just put that up, and I'll read the karakia, but you're welcome to join in. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kinikina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi aki ani te aka tatukura, he tio, he hoka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Thank you. So as you're all aware, you've been elected into office, but you don't have any power to act until you make a declaration. And so as required under Schedule 7, Clause 14.1 of the Local Government Act 2022, each councillor must read aloud and sign their statutory declaration. And so we'll do that straight away. And so what I'll do is I'll call councillors up into alphabetical order of their surname, as you see listed there. And if you'd like to come forward to the lectern here, we have the declaration, both in English and te reo. You can choose which form you'd like to read it, and then you need to sign it. And so we've got copies on the lectern to read, and then if you can sign the copy down on the desk beside me. And I think that we have, Lily's going to try and get a photo of you signing your declaration as well. So if we start with that, I'll ask Councillor Bruce Clarkson to come forward. Councillors, you do need to use microphones today because we're live streaming and people will not be able to hear you if you don't use the microphone. Okay, so sorry, Bruce, just before we start, Dave, do you want to discuss the use of the microphones and what the options are?
Councillors, you'll have been aware in the workshops that all of the microphones have been turned on for your sessions where you've been able to talk freely. It's standard protocol in the meetings that the chair controls the speaking orders, and thus, generally speaking, 3 of the microphones are turned on at one time, being the chair, a presenter at the far end, and whoever has the floor in terms of speaking of the members. The system itself will maintain a queue of those who wish to speak. If you press the right-hand button on your Bosch unit, you'll notice it'll pop on the first one of you might get a red light, and once the red lights are taken, they'll go green. And it will keep track of the order in which you've pressed your buttons, and we'll make sure that you all get your turn to speak when it comes up. That's normally how we would roll in the more formal meetings, but if you prefer, we could change back to the more casual, having them all on, and that's really a decision for you to make.
Okay, so they've asked for them all to be turned on all the time, and you'll just indicate if you want to speak and get Dave's attention, and he'll note the order.
For this meeting only.
That's for the meeting today. Thank you. So I'll ask Councillor Clarkson if you'd like to read your declaration.
I, Bruce Clarkson, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikato region powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikato Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Thank you, Councillor Clarkson. The next one is Councillor Robert Cookson.
Robert John Cookson declare that faithfully and partially execute and perform the best interest of Waikato powers and authorities and duties imposed upon me as a member of the Waikato Regional Council, virtues of the Local Government Act of 2002, Local Government officially Nation and Meetings Act of 1987, the other act.
Thank you, Councillor Cookson. Next, Councillor Michael Downard.
Michael Downard declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interest in the powers, authority, duties vested as a member of the Waikato Virtue of the Local Government Act 2 and the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
Thank you, Councillor Downard. The next councillor is Councillor Ben Dunbar-Smith.
Ben Dunbar-Smith. Declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikato region, the powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikato Regional Council, by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act, dated 27th of October 2022.
You don't need to do it.
I'll do it twice.
Did it in Māori. So anybody can do it in Te Reo. We'll give you the patience of abiding and sitting. Hi.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar-Smith. The next councillor is Councillor Clyde Graf.
I, Clyde Graf, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikato region, powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, 1987, or any other act. Thank you.
Councillor Graf. The next councillor is Councillor Kataraina Hodge.
Ko Katarana Hodge tēnei o te atu nei kia tuku ahau. I runga i te pono me te tika, ki te mutanga ki mai nei o oku pukinga, o oku mātaranga. He painga mō te rohe kaunihere o Waikato, nā mana, nā kaunga, me nā mahi ki utaina, mai ki runga ki ahau. Ki tia tangata o te kaunihere o a rohe o Waikato, nā runga i te ture kāwanatanga a rohe tuau tau tū, e te ture kāwanatanga a rohe mō te pāronga kāwanatanga me nā hui, 1987, nā runga rānei e tētihi atu ture. Ko e tohu nei e kirikiri e tēnei rā.
Kia ora, Councillor Hodge. The next councillor is Councillor Chris Hughes.
I, Christopher John Hughes, declare that I will faithfully, impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interest of the Waikato region the powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikato Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Councillor Hughes. The next councillor is Councillor Stuart Kneebone.
The Ron is telling me I should do it in te reo, but I haven't actually read it. I'll try. Ko Stu Kneebone tēnei, e oa te atu nei, ka tuki I ahau I runga I te pono me te tika, ki te mutanga ke mai nei o oku pukenga o tōku maturanga, ai paina mō te rohi kaunihera o Waikato, nā mana, nā kawina, me nā mahi ka utaina mai ki runga ki ahau. Ai tia tangata o te kaunihera arohi o Waikato, nā runga I te turi kāwanatanga arohi 2002. Ai te turi kāwanatanga arohi mō te Parongo kāwanatanga me nā hui 1987, nā runga rānei I tētahi atu turi. E tōhua nei I kirikiri roa I tēnei rā I te 27 o nā rā o whiringa anuku I te tau 2022.
Kia ora, Councillor Kneebone. The next councillor is Councillor Warren Ma.
I, Warren Ma, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikato region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikato by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Thank you, Councillor Ma. The next councillor is Councillor Tipa Mahuta.
Kua hau tipa mahuta tēnei o ati atu nei katutuki ahau i runga i te pono, te tika ki te mutunga kia mai o kupukinga o tōku mātauranga he painga mo te rohe kaunihira o Waikato. Ngā mana, ngā kawenga me ngā mahi kau taina mai ki runga i au. Hei tia tangata o te kaunihira a rohe o Waikato, nā runga i te ture kāwanatanga a rohe, rua mano rua, i te ture kāwanatanga tanga a rohe, mo te pārongo kāwanatanga me ngā hui, ko tahi mano i warauwaru te kai mawhitu, nā runga rānei i tētihi atu ture. E tohua nei ki kiri te kai mawhitu o ngā rā o whiringa anuku i te taurua te kauma. Rua mano rua te kaumarua, kia ora rā.
Councillor Mahuta. The next councillor is Councillor Jennifer Nicol.
I, Jennifer Nicol, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikato region, powers, authorities, and duties vested in and imposed upon me as a member of the Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, and any other act. Dated at Hamilton, 27th day of October, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. The next councillor is Councillor Noel Smith.
I, Noel Malcolm Douglas Smith, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikato region, powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikato Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. The next councillor is Councillor Pamela Story.
I, Pamela Story, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interest of the Waikato region, the powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikato Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Thank you, Councillor Story. And the next councillor is Councillor Angela Strange.
I, Angela Faye Strange, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikato region, powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikato Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Thank you, councillors. You've all sworn your declarations and signed them, so you can now act. And so I'll now be calling for a mover and a seconder of the paper, that it be received and that the declarations be noted. I think I'd move Councillor Nicol, Councillor Hodge as a seconder. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Next. So there's no apologies. Are there any leaves of absence that need to be noted? No, thank you. In which case, I'd just like to confirm the agenda for today. Do I have a mover to confirm the agenda? Don't know who got that. Did you get that, Dave? I think Councillor Strange and Councillor Smith, that the agenda be received and that the meeting may sit longer than 2 hours continuously if needed and continue longer than 6 hours, including adjournments if required. So that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Aye. Carried. Are there any disclosures of interest for the agenda today? There being no disclosures of interest, we can now move on to the election of the chair and deputy. So I'll ask if Marley Ahapeni might like to come forward and just take us through the process.
Tēnā koe, councillors, tēnā koutou. So, as per the report that has been pre-circulated in your agenda, one of the actions that must be completed at the first formal meeting of council is the election of the chairperson and deputy chairperson. And whilst you've had the information previously in your agenda, I will take the time to step you through the process so that we're all clear about the procedure. Starting with nominations for the chairperson and the deputy chairperson, each nomination will require a mover and a seconder. Any one of our elected members can be nominated to take on either of the roles. If more than one nomination is received, we will have to follow a voting system procedure, and we'll actually adopt a voting system before we get into nominations. Once we adopt a voting system, which I'll talk about shortly, you'll also be required to pick a system or a procedure that we will follow in the event of a tie. Once we have confirmed our voting system and tiebreaker procedure, Chris will then call for nominations. Each nominee will be given up to 10 minutes to speak to their nomination, and you've passed a resolution to that effect. And every other elected member will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. This is a standing order procedure, and I thought I'd put it in the slide because it wasn't in the the report itself. So just to be clear, everyone else gets 5 minutes, but the nominees get 10 minutes. Once we have finished, I guess, identifying who the nominees are, we will then undertake voting. And if necessary, the procedure to resolve the tie. Next slide, please. Thank you. Voting system. So, in a moment, Chris is going to call for nominations for a voting system. It requires a mover and a seconder, like any other recommendation or motion on the table, and a result is reached once that motion is carried. And then beyond that, we'll get into the nomination process. Yes, we can pause there and answer any questions.
Councillor Mahuta.
Just on previous trienniums, given that we are the only representatives of our constituencies, we've been allowed to ask questions of the candidates, Chair, so that we can hear their responses and so that we can reflect that with our support. Again, I haven't had a chance to, I don't know who the candidates are today, so I would like the opportunity to ask them so they can count it under their reply. If that's
Chris,
otherwise we won't know.
Kapai. I'll just pass back to the chairperson of the meeting, who ultimately has the, I guess, role and responsibility for managing debate. It's certainly enabled in our standing orders, but Chris, over to you.
I'd be happy to allow questions as long as it doesn't, they don't draw out too far, and they're not any other type of statement. They are just questions, and as long as the answers are reasonably succinct, just in the interest of running the meeting today. Thank you, Councillor Mahuta.
A question?
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah. In terms of the 5 minutes that the other councillors have, do we use that if we're not standing, or is that to comment on the candidates, or what is that 5 minutes you put in that last?
Like any motion that's on the table, councillors might wish to speak to the motion on the table, and so it would be similar in that you have an opportunity to do so, but you don't have to exercise that opportunity either. It is only for those councillors who might want to make comment on the nominations that have been received.
I think we feel the importance of the situation today is that councillors are able to make some comments on those who are nominated if they feel inclined. Again, standing orders doesn't enable me to restrict the number of speakers if it's sort of for or against. I'd be hoping that if councillors wanted to make comments, I'd be adding to comments that others have already made. It is my intention to allow all councillors to speak if they wish to. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Can we just skip on to the next slide, which gets into the voting system? Thank you. Thank you, Dave. So there are two systems to choose from, a system A and a system B. System A is essentially what you would, I guess, is better described as a progressive vote, whereas system B is first past the post. System A requires that the successful candidate receives a majority of votes. And so for this council and the number of people here today, a majority is 8. So 8 must be received under system A. If we get to 7-7, then of course we're going to have to get to go through a tie-break process. Under system B, which is a straight first past the post, the one round of voting is undertaken, and the nominee with the most votes after that first round of voting is elected. As you can see by the slide, if we have more than 2 candidates, then the voting system does significantly change the outcome. Under System A, the example given requires 2 rounds of voting. If we have 3 nominees, and Banana, who in the second round of voting received 8 votes, is a successful candidate or chairperson. Whereas under voting B, after 1 round of voting, the Apple, who received 6 votes, was elected. So hopefully that example is really useful to clarify the difference between the 2 voting systems. Of course, we can get into a tie situation under either of the voting systems, and so it's important that before we get into the voting system, we agree what procedure we will follow to resolve the tie. And so the 2 options we have identified are either the toss of a coin or by random selection out of a hat. And so we're prepared to undertake either procedure once you adopt one. Just one final slide before I hand back to our chairperson, Chris, to walk through decision making. The role of the chairperson and deputy chair. So this information is in your agenda, but it's certainly worth, I guess, highlighting what the roles and responsibilities are. As one of the elected members, the chair and the deputy share the same responsibilities as every other elected member, but they also have additional responsibilities that are really pivotal to council achieving its purpose. The key components of the role are to provide leadership to the council, as well as leadership in the region and also the national context. And so our chairperson presides at all council meetings and ensures the orderly conduct of business. Our chairperson is appointed typically in this council anyway to all standing committees of council, as is the deputy chairperson. And that practice has been adopted to ensure that our the 2 individuals that are in those roles are across all of council business. The chairperson is also our ceremonial head and spokesperson of council, provides leadership and support to you all, has the important role of a close working relationship with our chief executive, which is critical to the success of the organisation, enables and leads development of and advocates for council's policies. And this is the point in which we start looking at the more external facing responsibilities of the chairperson. This person influences our important relationships with Māori and other councils and also central government, and is an advocate for the community. When our chairperson is absent, it is up to the deputy chairperson to step in and take on all of those responsibilities. I'll pause there, skip to the next slide and hand back to Chris.
Can I just check, is there any clarification required of Marley just before we move on to the next procedural matter? Does everybody understand the voting system and what's involved in the selection for the chairperson and then the deputy chairperson?
Just the format thing, Chris.
Excuse me, can we just use microphones, please?
Yeah, just a format thing, Chris. When do we select the voting procedure?
You're going to do it very shortly.
Okay.
Just one other thing, Chris, just for people in the room that may not be aware, there was an opportunity for all councillors to present their point of view if they were looking to run for chair, and they were given the opportunity to have a meeting to discuss it. So it was an open opportunity and everyone was given it. So through actually Jennifer Nicol, through her initiative. So I just thought I'd say that for people around the room.
Thank you, Councillor Graff. And so that was an informal opportunity outside of this meeting. There's no other questions.
Just one for clarity.
Sorry, Councillor Mahuta.
Are we taking them separately? Like just as your agenda indicates, we're just doing chair first and then at the close of that process we do.
Yeah, just to be clear, when you select the chairperson, I will vacate my seat. They'll have to swear a declaration as a chairperson, and then I'll vacate the seat and they will take over running the meeting, including the selection of the deputy chairperson. There being no other questions, if we just move into, this is just procedural. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder that received the report, and that nominees of the chair and deputy chair positions can speak up to 10 minutes. So I think I have.
I'll second.
Councillor Graff, Councillor Downard, second. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? No, carried. So now is a decision that you need to make.
I'd like to move
Yep.
voting system B if I can.
Okay, so looking, so I've got a mover, Councillor Graff, to adopt voting system B.
Second.
And we've got a seconder, Councillor Hughes. Did you want to talk to that, Councillor Graff?
No.
Is there any discussion about the voting system anyone would like to have?
I just note that B, the best case scenario for B is that you're a minority chair, and that's not often the best way forward for council. I think A would elicit a stronger result for the chair in their mandate. So I just note that we've never used B in the last 3 trienniums, if that helps them.
I appreciate that.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Smith.
So as I understand it, then having got a move for B, the only way to get A now, because it's complete opposite, is to defeat A, defeat B, and A becomes the option. So we need to vote on this motion before we can even consider the other.
That is my understanding as well. That's correct. If there's no other questions, I'm going to put it to the vote, and I'll ask for a show of hands, please. So we can make sure we can count it accurately. Those in support of the motion that system B be adopted as the voting procedure, can you please raise your right hand? Sure. 6. Can we just can you do that again, please?
2, 3, 4, 6, 7.
We have 7. In this case, it.
For those against. As for those against.
That's a good point. Can we have, those who are against system B being used as the voting procedure, please raise their right hand. Is your hand up?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. In which case we have a tie. Now, I'll just look to Marley for the procedure from here, because it is highly possible that I'll end up as presiding over this meeting as the chair with a casting vote. Marley, can you just explain the procedure, please?
Yes, so under our standing orders, the chairperson has a casting vote. And given that, Chris, you are sitting in the chairperson's role until a chairperson of council is elected, you have the important power and decision to make as to, I guess, resolving the situation.
Thank you, Marley. Thank you, councillors, for putting me in this position. I'd rather not have been.
Just one thing. You may have the
Councillor Graff.
You may have the option to toss a coin.
No, I understand that I have as it's not prescribed in legislation like the selection of the chairperson. I understand that I have the casting vote for it. I think, given I don't know if there's 2 or more nominees, I do not know the number of nominees coming forward. If it's more than 1, I think it would be in the best interest to see if we can get a majority vote out of councillor to be the support of the chair. And so my casting vote will go to system A to maximise the chances of a majority vote.
Can I speak?
Marley.
Just to respond to the action you've taken, Chris, you've exercised your casting vote against the motion that is currently on the table. and therefore this motion will be lost, and you'll get into calling for a nomination for the alternative system, and you'll need a mover and a seconder, and we'll have to go through that process again of casting votes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I thought as it was the opposite, it stood. So the motion is lost. So now I'll call, if there's a mover and a seconder, system A. So Councillor Mahuta, do we have a seconder? Councillor Kneebone. Is there any discussion, further discussion that Councillor Mahuta you would like to raise regarding the matter?
I already said that I believe the system has a likelihood of majority chair, which is always good for the progressive council.
Are there any other comments, Councillor Smith?
The reality for me, sir, is that we could go through this all day if we want to do the 7-7. So I would just urge all of us to get behind one, and that's A on the table now. So move this and decision.
Any other discussion? Okay, so those in favour of system A being used as a voting procedure, could you please raise your right hand? So the number was? It's 11, so the motion is passed. System A will be used. Thank you. So the next decision you need to make before you get to choosing the chairperson is what to do in the event of a tie. And so the two options are, Marley, you might like us to talk through these options in terms of the legislation and what's required.
The legislation requires that you pick a procedure to resolve a tie result. The two procedures that we've identified and that is commonly used by councils across the country for this sort of situation is either a toss of a coin or drawing names out of a hat. And so those are the two options that we suggest you consider and pick from. So just to explain it a bit further, it's pretty straightforward with regard to the toss of a coin. What will happen is our current chairperson, Chris, will ask whoever is nominated first at the top of the list to call either heads or tails, and then the coin will be tossed, and whatever result we get is the successful person. Same with drawing a name out of a hat. The two names will be placed into a hat. We will ask our current chairperson, Chris, to draw a name out of the hat, and whichever name is drawn is the successful person.
But just checking that's clear. Are there any questions of clarification required of Marley regarding the options? No, and we have used selection out of a hat in the past for selection of a deputy chairperson, I think, in my memory.
The last time we undertook this process, it was drawing a name out of a hat. The deputy chair. Or the deputy chair. But although there has been the suggestion of an arm wrestle, but that was not adopted.
So can I?
Councillor Hodge, can I just ask councillors, please, to we've got the gooseneck microphones on, to speak closely into it. Apparently, there's difficulty hearing online if you don't bring the microphone close. Thank you.
So Marley, can you explain if there's three, one is 7 and the other 2 is equal? It's only the other 2 that goes into the hat, and then that name comes out and it's revoting for the one who got 7 and the one pulled out of the hat. So yeah, it's because we're chosen to be majority, it has to be, the winner has to have 8. So last year in the deputy chair, one had 7 and the other 2 had 4 each. So the 2 who had 4 names went in the hat, 1 got pulled out, and then the 7 and the 1 pulled out of the hat had to go back to vote. And so one of them got 8. Just making sure they understand. If there is 3, of course.
Yes,
More.
thank you for that example, Councillor Hodge. It's really useful to highlight what can occur under System A. And so the example given is that if we have a tied result, and they are the 2 candidates that received the least votes, then we still have to go through a tiebreaker to identify which of the 2 will go through to the next round of voting.
Are there any other questions of clarification? No, in which case.
Did we decide on a hat? Did we decide on a hat?
No, we're about to, I'm looking for a mover.
Better move for a hat.
Okay,
Wait a second.
so we have a mover for the,
It's a mighty fine
do we
hat.
have a seconder for that?
Are you moving, Jen?
Hat.
The hat, take out the time.
Yep.
Do we have a seconder?
Just trying to ruin
Councillor
someone's
Story.
headline.
Yeah.
All in favour?
Yep.
Against? Carried. Dave, so Marley.
The information on this slide is really just a repeat of what I have already explained in terms of the process. So what you'll get into next is the chairperson, Chris, calling for nominations, and then each nominee will be given up to 10 minutes with everyone else up to 5 minutes. Voting will be undertaken in accordance with the preferential vote or System A. And if we need to, we will be drawing a name out of a hat if we get a tied result. Once the chairperson, a decision for the chairperson is reached, then the chair will make a declaration and assume the chair. And at that point, I think we'll probably take an adjournment so that we can get that person settled into the role.
Thank you. So I'll now move on. Thanks, Dave. And I'll call for nominations for
First
chairperson.
speaker, please. Yep, can I please nominate someone?
Yes, can you speak clearly into the microphone, please?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Stu Kneebone.
So we have a Councillor Kneebone nominated by Councillor Strange. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Kneebone?
Better second.
Councillor Mahuta?
Chris, I'd like to nominate Pamela Story.
Councillor Ma is nominating Councillor Story. Do we have a seconder for?
I'd like to second Pamela Story.
Thank you. Councillor Cookson as a seconder. Do we have any further nominations? Right, so only 2 members are being nominated. I'll ask Councillor Kneebone if you have up to 10 minutes to speak, Councillor Kneebone.
I'll declare nominations closed. Just procedurally, that helps.
Thank you. Councillor Kneebone.
Look, thanks, Chris, and acknowledge you too, Pamela. Democracy's been seen to be done today. So, look, thanks for the opportunity to present. I appreciate that some of you here know little about me, so I trust the following is going to be useful. And I just simply want you to understand what my value proposition is for the role of the Regional Council Chair, so we as a council can make the right decision. I just want to make 3 key points. The first one is trust, and it needs to work both ways, but the chair needs to lay the foundations. If individual councillors amongst us can't speak to the chair in confidence, then I think we've got the wrong chair. So I'll be straight up now and go on the record to say make it really clear that a confidential conversation with me is exactly that. It doesn't mean that that I'll agree with you all, but it does mean that you can test your thoughts and your ideas with me, and you'll get a respectful and confidential ear. And to me, that's really important because it lays the foundations of what we can achieve as a team. I'm an effective communicator. I've been writing for local papers now for 12 years on a monthly basis. And I've used that opportunity to report on council activities and policies, etc. And I haven't used it to further my own political agendas. I'll stand up and I'll be counted. I won't abstain from voting. And in the past, I haven't shied away from owning my decisions when I've supported at the time were not necessarily universally popular decisions. And look, I make that point because part of the chair's role is to represent and advocate on behalf of council for decisions that are not necessarily ones that the chair supported as an individual, but I'll give my assurance that I'll do that, and I'll do it to the best of my ability. And so, look, I simply just want us to create an environment that's safe for robust and constructive debate, and we can come out the other end with knowledge that we've heard and respected each other's views, and we've arrived at an enduring decision. And I'll mention that again shortly. My other key point is inclusive, being inclusive and enabling. And my style is very much an inclusive one. It's about working together. I'm not an autocratic style of leader. And that's because I don't believe any one of us has the answers to all the problems. We're here as a council to harness our collective skills and knowledge and arrive at better decisions that we can't achieve as individuals. I'll go on record now as I'm not interested in doing deals to secure this chairmanship, and the same goes for committee chairs and memberships. And look, I'll say now, I acknowledge I may not be everyone's first choice for this role. We've got democracy happening today, but I will make it clear that that won't detract from my desire for us to agree on some principles to guide our decision making regarding our committee structure, our committee chair and deputy appointments. In other words, I'll be encouraging us to take a merit-based approach and ensure that our workload is shared across all of us. And I've already explained to you how I'd go about that process, or how I'd like to lead that process. I've seen the results of political deal making in the past, and it always results in bad outcomes. At best we just undermine team culture, and at worst we end up with decisions that aren't enduring, and they're always at risk of being undermined, and it's not a good outcome for our community. Look, we're going to have disagreements, all of us, and we'll all make mistakes, and I'll be looking to help us resolve those in a respectful and constructive way. If I'm in the position of chair, I'll be looking for a conversation with you if your actions are undermining the objectives of the team, but I'll do that with respect, and I'll do my best to help us resolve the issue in a constructive way. You won't find me making rash statements to the media to score political points. It's not my style. And look, I'll stand behind my track record, but if I think something needs to happen, I won't hold back, and I'll be coming to you all and seeking support for a course of action, which we ultimately have to agree on as a council. The last point is, look, clearly I've got a passion for what the Regional Council does, and I wouldn't be here for a third term if I didn't. I'm just simply focused on getting the best from everyone, and that includes our CEO, Chris, and his team, because I think that relationship's just as important as our relationship with each other. I'm an inclusive chair. I think I'm an effective chair, and I just simply want to get the best from everyone. I'm also an evidence-based decision maker. If I don't think Chris has provided us with enough information to make an informed decision, then I'll be recommending that we go back to the drawing boards. And I guess to finish off, look, my vision is, if I was to be chair, is really simple. It's communities thrive when everyone pulls their weight, and we all make decisions for the greater good. So we need to get together and respect each other's differences, and we're going to have to compromise in order that we can make those council decisions. So that's me. What you see is what you get. I'm not someone that's going to tell you what you want to hear. People who know me will tell you that I'm a straight shooter. I just think it's important that we all know where we stand on different issues, and I'd like the same from everyone else. I know how to get on with people, and I'm happy to be judged on my track record. And I guess finally, look, my view is that if council can't add value with what it's doing, we shouldn't be doing it. So that's one of my sort of core principles as well. So look, that's me. I'm going to stop there and happy to take any feedback and questions. Thank you. Chris.
Thank you, Councillor Kneebone. I'm just thinking through when the appropriate time is to receive questions. I think the right to do is enable Councillor Story to talk to as a to the nomination she's been given. Then we might go back for questions. Then I'll ask the movers and seconders if they'd like to say something, and then open up for discussion. So, Councillor Story, it's yours.
So the Waikato region presents the ultimate intersect of opportunity and challenge. It's a place of unique small towns and rural aesthetics, as well as the thriving urban center that is Hamilton. It is a history of the prosperity of primary production, and it is an incubator for new technology. It is both social and economic privilege and social and economic challenge. 500,000 people from a variety of communities of interest, from different backgrounds, with diversity of thought and diversity of politics. And we all have collectively been put here to represent them, make good, robust decisions on behalf of our entire region. We all talked about it yesterday. We agreed that we all want to make a positive difference for our diverse communities. Our views, our politics will inevitably differ, just as the views of the communities that elected us may differ. We know that when we debate issues around this table, sometimes the decision goes our way and sometimes it doesn't, and that has to be okay. The difference in our positions reflects the variety of opinions amongst the communities we represent, and ultimately, the more views we consider, the better our decisions will be. We are here, all of us are here in service to our community. The value we can bring is in thoughtful, considered, constructive debate, where collectively we can work towards a positive future for this region. For returning councillors, you have all seen firsthand my ability to chair. As the former chair of strategy and policy, you have all seen me chair over 82 meetings of all of council in the last 3 years. You know my ability to run an effective meeting, to allow everyone a voice regardless of the politics. You have seen me represent this region in front of select committee, representing not my personal view, but the view of council faithfully. You know that I am fair and reasoned and representative. For new councillors, I know the challenge of coming into this role and having to make your first decision, which is so foundational to this entire triennium. I hope that the time I've spent talking with each of you has given you some insight into what I can bring to the chair role. We all bring unique skills and experiences to our roles here, and collectively we are at a point in time where we can really make a lasting difference for this region in this chamber. Courageous leadership, robust and respectful debate, and bold decision making. That's how we will positively position the Waikato region now and into the future. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Story. As I said, I think it's most appropriate now to be able to ask any questions of what you've heard, and then we'll move to the movers and seconders if they want to say anything and add to it, and then any other discussion. So are there any questions from councillors of Councillor Kneebone? Councillor Mahuta.
I've got a question to both nominees.
Okay, this is,
Same question.
the question is to both nominees. Councillor Mahuta, can you talk into the microphone so those online can hear? Thank you.
Tuatahi ka nui te mihi kia kōrua, ngā kai whano mō tēnei tūranga, i te mea he maha ngā kaipapa Māori kei roto i tō tātou kaunihira, koe nei te take ka pātai, wēnei pātai. So just again, mahi to both of you for standing and representing our region, noting the significant changes that our council has made with regards to the rights and interest of the Māori population within our region. And so within that context, I guess the question is, I want to understand your commitment to give effect to Te Ture Whaimana within our role as regional council to the co-governance arrangements that exist and to extending our relationships with iwi, because we were not that successful last term. So would love to hear your views. So I can say to my constituents, "Katoa mōhio ki wēnei tokorua nei." Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mahuta. I'll put the questions in order of the nominations. Councillor Kneebone.
Tēnā koe tipa. Look, I'm very committed to our co-governance relationships. When I first got onto this council was when we first, in the process of signing the joint management agreements with our 5 River iwi partners. And in my view, the river settlement has been very constructive for the community as a whole. I note that the Waikato River Authority grants approximately $6 million a year for river restoration projects. The Regional Council applies for a significant portion of those funds on behalf of our landowners. And I guess the key point there is that the vast that was settlement money that was negotiated by Waikato Tainui. However, the vast majority of that money is presently going into non-iwi, non-Māori owned farms. So I think, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm extremely supportive of co-governance arrangements that produce a positive outcome for both iwi Māori and the community as a whole. And I think we're quite lucky in the Waikato we've got that. That doesn't mean that they can't be improved on for both parties, I think. So it's an ongoing process of re-evaluation and support, and I think we should always be looking to opportunities to make them better. But in short, I'm very supportive. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Kneebone. Councillor Story.
Kia ora, thank you for that question, Tipa. Certainly supportive of the relationships. It's been, I have to say, a real pleasure over the last 3 years to be able to engage in the various joint management agreement arrangements and see how those can be productively used. I think we would acknowledge that we've seen when those haven't gone well, and certainly committed to continuing a positive aspect of those, and as Councillor Kneebone says, working together for good outcomes for across all of our communities. Kia ora.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the nominees? Councillor Nicol.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions, if that's right.
Councillor Nicol, can you speak into the microphone?
I've got 2 questions. If it's right, I'll ask both. Both candidates, sorry, nominees. Knowing that difficulties occur between councillors, what is the approach that you would take to proactively resolve things before they turn into code of conduct complaints? We can go in the same order if you like.
Go to Councillor Kneebone.
Look, acknowledging that disagreements could take a range of different forms, my initial approach would be to sit down with the individuals involved first in a respectful and confidential way, and just understand the problem first, and then try and identify what sort of solutions there are. I mean, ultimately, if an individual wants to pursue the formal process, then they're entitled to do that. But I think it's always better if we can work out informally beforehand, but confidentially, how we can best resolve the situation. And look, as I said before, I fundamentally think it goes back to the culture we create right from the beginning, and I think we've got off to a really good start here, and long may it continue.
Thank you, Councillor Kneebone. Councillor Story.
Yeah, I like to think that we're all adults, and as with any organization and grouping of people, there's going to be differences of opinions. And like I said before, I think that the key is the respectful nature with which we engage with each other. I also acknowledge that sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. And you do need to have constructive conversations with individuals if things are going awry. And of course, we do always have the fallback of a formal system. We'd like to think that we can resolve things before then, but there is always that fallback.
Thank you, Councillor Story. Did you have another question, Councillor?
One more, sorry. And reflecting on the narrative that's been out there and set on how we were deciding the voting system before. And so I thought I'd ask the question around what do you have any comments or feedback on your beliefs on the use of a casting vote? If you go, Stu, and then Pamela, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Look, my understanding that convention has always been that the casting vote should be used to maintain the status quo, acknowledging that every situation is a little bit unique. But look, my fundamental position would be that if it's an important decision and we've only got 50% support for it, and that decision is potentially going to take us in a different direction as a council, then I think we should be going back to the drawing boards. But look, we've got 14 councillors. They sometimes need to be used, otherwise we'd go nowhere. But
thank you, Councillor.
The powers that be should have made us 13 or 15.
Yeah.
Councillor Story.
Well, 13 or 15, I suppose that is the point of the casting vote, isn't it? Yeah, I agree with Councillor Kneebone that best practice is that the casting vote is in favor of the status quo, and totally support that. Yes, if the decision is that close, then probably there's some missing information, or there's something that that just needs to be talked about more extensively or explored a little bit differently, and we should take every opportunity to do that. But I also agree with Stu that there may be occasions where we have to make a decision, because that's what we've been put here to do.
Really appreciate the answers, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, Councillor Strange?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, to both candidates. How would you build the collective confidence of all councillors in order to be very inclusive?
Look, to me, it starts with how we, obviously relationships are first off, and I'd like to think we're off to a good start. I don't know all of you as well as given that we've only been here for 2 weeks, but I'd certainly be putting a focus on that. And then it's fundamentally, as I said, I think I said to you in the paper I sent out the other day, establishing some principles in terms of how we're going to work together, how we're going to allocate responsibility across the council, because we can't all do everything, and we need to reflect each other's various interests, the different issues in our constituencies, and our skill sets as well. Look, we can't all be committee chairs, and we can't all be on every committees, but I trust that if we approach it respectfully from day one, then we can get it to work for the benefit of the region.
Councillor Story.
Thanks for that question, Angela. So just so I'm reflecting it, so it's about how do we build a collegial culture? Is that what you're?
So the collective confidence, so that there's no A team and B team.
Yeah, I think that we have gotten off to a good start, and I mean, for those of us who have returned, we've already spent 3 years together, or for some even more than that, and so there is a real good understanding of each other in that sense. And I suppose in terms of the new councillors around the table, either we met on the campaign trail numerous times, or we've had the opportunity to spend some time getting to know each other. And I think that, as I said in my initial speech, you know, the merit is the merit that got all of us here, right? We all bring merit to this table. We have all been elected by our communities. And there is a variety of skill sets. And so it's about recognizing where each individual can add their, either their area of interest or their area of passion to the collective decision-making of council.
Thank you, Councillor Story. Are there any other different questions that would like to be asked? If not, I'll look to the Councillor Strange and Mahuta. Would you like to speak to the motion of your nomination, Councillor Strange?
No.
That would be the occasion.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Yeah, I've known Councillor Kneebone this last triennium and always found him to be someone who is not afraid to speak up, even if it's an unpopular minority view. Stu is someone who acts with integrity. He shows up to meetings. He gives his contribution as well. As has been said already, we're all here to serve the people of the Waikato. We need a chair who works on that high trust and regular accountability. We need a chair who's present at meetings and interfaces with all councillors regularly. And I think for me, looking back on the past triennium, there's always learnings we can make. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. But looking forward is important as well. So you look at the past to understand where you've been in order to move on. I think Stu is someone who would act in the best faith for our council, for our people, for our region. And for me, seeing that at the regional committee level and also at a central government level is really important. Everything we do is about relationships and building that connection with people and collaboration. And that starts right here in this room and is communicated throughout our whole region as well. Diversity has already been mentioned, and it's something that I really value. The voters in our region have given us a diverse bunch of people around the table. So we need someone who can harness those strengths, those skills, and put them to work in the best way. I've always seen Stu debate the policy, not the person. And for me, politics can be a really messy job, but it doesn't have to be nasty. At the end of the day, I'm looking for a leader who is collaborative in their approach and can work with people and all of our partners in the region. And I think Stu would do an amazing job. So that's why I've nominated him. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Councillor Mahuta, did you have anything that you wanted to comment on?
Kia ora. I've done the same term of service as Stu, so I've seen him in a number of different council formats, but he has chaired committees of council, co-governance committees of council, led the catchment committee of council with Stu's husband. So I think he's got a breadth of knowledge that we all benefit from when he contributes again to the kaupapa, not necessarily the challenge on people and their own opinions. Stu, in his own right, has gone from a non-speaker of Te Reo to what you saw today in a very short time, which shows huge commitment in my community, because when I came, hey mate, you have very little reo and very little regard for it too. I had to slam that into, no. But again, you've appreciated how often it's used to create a greater sense of community with the 60,000 odd constituents that belong to Kataroa and I. Not only that, but I've seen you go to Farmgate meetings with your constituents and mine and get us all there around the issues that are important in the community. So without that, I wouldn't have had a way in. So I do appreciate that from you. And the other thing with Stu is I think he walks his talk. So I think we'd be more likely to have a wānanga about behaviour than enter into any rash acts about it. So I appreciate that. I know you worked last triennium to try and create continuity in some really difficult times, and I appreciate that. I note too that Kataraina and I are often in an isolated position at this council. So again, I behave both members, Pamela and Stu, but I've worked with Stu long enough to have confidence that he'll keep including us. Again, that's not saying anything against Pamela. I've just got that direct experience from Plan Change 1 and the other things we've done. I don't think it's too late to say that constructive environment that you want to encourage, because we came into catchment when it was pretty everything but constructive, and we managed one triennium to get really great catchment activity. Unfortunately, we canned that last term, so we've got some work to do, council. But also not shy of those harder questions in front of the community that hold us into account. So for all those reasons, I support Stu Nebone. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Mahuta. I'm going to turn to Councillor Ma. Is there anything you'd like to say in support of your nomination?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yes, I've given Pamela my nomination today. I've come from outside this organisation, obviously, as a first termer, and so I base my experience on other boards and that I sit on around the community, especially my New Zealand Sports Fishing Council background. And some of the things of good governance, Pamela has shown me straight off the bat. Basically, that inclusiveness, taking an interest in what's important to me, and that sort of things, bringing me in, giving me a real explanation on how the organisation works, and things that I can take back to my community and inform them on, and help me in the process of basically being a good representative for my community. And that happened. I've spoken to most of you around the table, but Pamela really stood out in what she's done for me, and just that clarity of communication, the transparency there, taking examples and issues of what's happening in my community. She's interested in and already has a good coverage of what's going on the Coromandel Thames Peninsula. So that was one of the big things for me moving forward, and to give Pamela my nomination. And it's something I really believe in. That what another thing that impressed me was the fact that she has chaired 82 council meetings, and I think that's something, that experience and having that control over a room like this, and aware of a little bit of conflict and stuff that's going on, which is always going to happen. So to be able to actually sit in front of this organisation for 82 meetings and chair it is congratulations. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm coming from. A lot of our goals align, and I actually think, Pamela, I want to see Waikato Regional Council be quite innovative. I think we sit inside process a hell of a lot, and I understand there's guidelines behind that, but just conversations we've had, I think for me, moving forward, I like to look outside the box. There's a number of us around the table that are sort of looking outside that, and sometimes that little bit of being too institutionalised, you kind of lose a little bit of touch. That's my opinion. So talking to Pamela and just being able to look outside that box, and just different innovative things that we can bring into our communities and for the greater Waikato good. So that's why I'm supporting Pamela today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ma. Councillor Cookson.
I second her, Pamela, for her professionalism of what she's shown since I've known her for about 3 years now, I suppose, around about that. We had a few discussions in that 3 years of what council was like, and how she was prepared to open up and talk about what it was like being a councillor, and how we saw things in the community similar. And I pretty much just agree with what Warren said. She's always been helpful and open and welcoming to the discussion, and her professionalism. And as a councillor, I fully support in her being chair, or hopefully her being elected chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cookson. So the movers and seconders have had an opportunity to speak. I'll just open it up for any discussion that other councillors might like to make, and I will circle back to the movers for a right of reply at the end, if you wish to do so. Are there any other comments or discussion that councillors would like to make?
I'd just like to speak on behalf of Pamela that.
Sorry, just Councillor Dunbar-Smith for those online so they know who's speaking.
I'd just like to speak on behalf of Pamela. I've known her for a long time now. And I was actually working at the Regional Council at the time when we came across this little thing called Huntly Energy Efficiency Trust. She had set up to actually insulate the homes of people who were disadvantaged. And that was long before the government scheme got underway. And then she started the Kaivolution thing, the idea that you should actually recycle the food and give it back to people who are hungry. These are all community things that show a strong kaupapa into the community and a lot of integrity, because it wasn't to do it for money, it was to do it for service. And I just think that flows through Pamela, and I find her very, well, Dairy NZ, there's a whole lot of history there where she's chaired and inspired a whole lot of women as a woman leader. And there's a sense of, I think as Warren said, an ability to move things forward and to do something different this time than what we've done in the past. It's time for a new type of council, a new way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar-Smith. Are there any other councillors who would like to make a comment? Councillor Nicol?
Sure, thank you. Want to say I've so far really enjoyed getting to know everyone on our new council. Thank you, and thanks for engaging with the little bits of council only time that were quite impromptu that I organised. And actually it was really, on top of that, yesterday was a great day where we had our training on good governance. Really appreciated that and everybody's inputs to it. And then even today, and some of the people I spoke with yesterday, it was really heartening. I think that there's a lot of respect around the table actually for both candidates. And that's a great situation to be in. I haven't heard anything obviously negative about either candidate, perhaps implied, but not. But we all have great things about us and flaws. But I want to speak on behalf of Councillor Kneebone as someone that I've known for the past 3 years and have found him to be incredibly authentic and open-minded to learning. And I really do appreciate his experience on having experienced the various styles of chairs over the years to get to the point where he's listed those different ways of how he would approach this. I've also found that he has a very pragmatic way of looking at things and can also, I'm looking across at you, Ben, and it makes me think of somebody who can forgive but not forget things that have happened in the past, which is a really cool quality in this role. So based on my experience so far, my the learning I've done in this role and the information that I've gathered by this point, my support sits with Councillor Kneebone, because I think that's something that talking with some of my contacts and constituents, that's the right way for me to go today. But I don't want to take anything away from Pamela, and I really want to say that I could very, very easily work with both of you. And have a lot of respect for both of you. You have quite different backgrounds. And as to finish off as well, I have to round back to the beginning. I hope that others have also found me very helpful to them. I am committed to helping so many new councillors keep figuring out this role and finding their way with it. So yeah, I want everyone here to meet their aspirations and be the best that they can be in it, because ultimately it's the community that we're here to serve as per our oath, for the whole region and for now and into the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Anybody else would like to make any comments? No, if not, go back to Councillor Strange. Did you have anything further to add? No, Councillor Marr, did you have anything further you wanted to add? I guess we're at the point then where we need to call for votes. So just
Chair, can I call for a division?
Councillor Smith.
Could I call for a division, please?
Yes. So division is called, Dave. I'm just going to seek clarity before I go to this from Marley. So in terms of, I'm going to call for the number of votes in the order of Councillor Nebo and Councillor Story.
Yes, that is the appropriate order to take it, and what we, I guess, identified earlier in the meeting.
So those who would like to vote in favour of Councillor Kneebone being chairperson of council, can they please raise their right hand?
The division records each name.
Yes, we will be recording the names, and I'll get Dave to check that we have the names recorded correctly.
6 votes. Councillor
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, I count.
Sorry.
Please, eh?
I'll call your names and I'd like you to indicate whether you support Councillor Kneebone, please.
Can't you see our hands? Are they?
Yeah, we've
Too
called
big or too
division,
small?
so we have to. Councillor Clarkson. Councillor Cookson. Councillor Downard. Councillor Dunbar Smith. Against. Councillor Graff. Councillor Hodge.
For.
Councillor Hughes.
Against.
Councillor Nebo. For. Councillor Marr.
Against.
Councillor Mahuta. Councillor Nicol.
For.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Story.
Against.
Councillor Strange.
For.
And 7 votes for, 7 votes against.
So,
Councillor Nebo.
and so by taking this process, we can make sure everybody's voted once and who has or hasn't exercised their vote. So I'll now call for those in favour of Councillor Story being the chairperson of council. And Dave, again, division called, so.
Councillor Clarkson.
Against.
Councillor Cookson. For. Councillor Downard.
For.
Councillor Dunbar Smith. For. Councillor Graff. Councillor Hodge. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Kneebone.
Against.
Councillor Marr.
For.
Councillor Mahuta. Councillor Nicol.
Against.
Councillor Smith. Councillor Story.
For.
Councillor Strange.
Against.
Seven votes.
Folks, we have a tie. So in the event of a tie that you decided earlier that you were going to use the hat to draw a name out of, to choose our chairperson.
Okay, so as you're aware, the tiebreaker is to draw a name out of the hat. And so, yes, we have printed numbers in preparation for such a tiebreaker needing to occur. And so in my hand, I have the name of Councillor Story and the name of Councillor Kneebone, I will ask you to have a look at that bit of paper, Councillor Story, and fold it in half and place it into the hat. Thank you. And we will ask Councillor Kneebone to do the same. Councillor Kneebone, is that your name? Yes.
Yep.
Would you fold it in half and place it in the hat? Thank you. And so we have both candidate or nominees' names in the hat, and I will ask the CE as the current chair to draw a name out of the hat, and just for the name that comes out of the hat is elected our chairperson. Kapai?
No pressure, Chris.
Too short.
I'd like to congratulate that Councillor Story as being elected as the chairperson of the Waikato Regional Council.
Hey, look, congratulations, Pamela, and you and your council have my full support. Thank you.
Just making sure I'm in the right space here. So we're now going to adjourn the meeting. I'm going to suggest for 15 minutes or maybe until 12:45, so we can just brief Pamela on the roll from here. And then we will move on in the agenda with the election of the deputy chairperson. So the meeting's adjourned until 12:45.